Hey guys, what is happening? Welcome back to another video here on the channel. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about the cost to get into radio controlled cars. We're going to be going through essentially 3 different levels of radio controlled vehicles. The first level is going to be essentially your entry level point. What do you need to spend at an absolute minimum to get into the hobby? More than likely, it's going to be something of a small scale. Then we're going to look at the next level, which is getting something that is maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit more features, maybe even a little bit faster as well. And lastly, we're going to cover the cost to essentially build this wildly overpowered radio controlled Arma Limitless. We have a goal of 100 miles per hour, and you guys have selected the power system that we're going to drop into this vehicle. Let's get started and talk about the range that you would expect for the more common radio controlled cars. And I do want to warn you that you may find radio controlled vehicles outside of the range that we're going to talk about today. Essentially, everything that we're going to talk about deals with hobby grade radio controlled vehicles. And this starts at about $150 right there on the low end. And as you climb to much bigger radio controlled vehicles or vehicles that come with more features and go faster and so forth, you would expect to pay somewhere around the $1,500 US dollars for something like that. Anywhere in that range, and you're going to find 90% of the market in terms of radio controlled cars. One point worth noting, if you are brand new to the radio controlled car hobby, is I would highly recommend that you stick to the more ready to run or entry level radio controlled vehicles. And the whole point and reason why I would recommend that is because a lot of the components are essentially already selected, and those that have not been selected are quite easy to figure out. Once you get into more advanced radio controlled cars, this process becomes super complex, hence the whole reason why this channel exists. Let's go through our very first example where we're choosing a radio control car around that $150 price range mark. This is a Latrax Desert Pre-Runner. It's a 1/18 scale 4-wheel drive racing truck. And if you don't prefer the racing truck style of body, you can go with the Latrax Teton. This is also 1/18 scale. It's also 4-wheel drive, but it's more representing a monster truck. Both of these radio controlled cars come in at $150 US dollars. And for this price point, you get quite a bit. I personally own both of these radio controlled cars, and I think they come with a ton of features. They're a lot of fun both indoors and outdoors. Now let's go through a few points. So both these models come with a brush motor and the old common 7.2 nickel metal hydride battery pack. Now it does come with an AC wall outlet charger as noted right here in the features. This does work and it will get you by. However, it does charge the battery pack fairly slowly. Either way, you're still going to have a radio controlled car that you can go and run without having to spend any more money than the $150 US dollars. Now, even the batteries that go in the radio controlled transmitter are included, and it does say that somewhere here the 4 Traxxas Power Cell AA alkaline batteries are included. So you're literally getting everything that you need to go and take this vehicle, charge it up, and run it all for $150. Now that you've seen a radio controlled car that essentially comes with everything that you need right in one box, you may be wanting something that you might have to select specific components to, even if it's just the battery or the charger that you have to get. This is where you start to get more into the hobby of radio controlled cars. Let's take a look at our second example. Our example 2 here is a Traxxas Rustler. Now Traxxas is the same company that produces the Latrax Pre-Runner as well as the Latrax Teton that we saw in the previous part of the video. This one in particular sells for $200. Now it's very important to understand that the $200 pretty well only gets you what you see here on the page. You do not get the battery pack or the charger to charge that battery pack for the car, and we'll talk about that very shortly. This model is very capable of achieving 35 plus miles per hour, and for anyone entering the hobby, this is a really good top speed. The model is rear-wheel drive, so it doesn't have all the features and bells and whistles that you would expect in a more expensive model. However, let's go and talk about this selection or option that we have to get, because right now we're sitting at about $200 and we have to buy a battery pack and a charger in order to get running. So it gives us a few different options, and you don't need to go and buy these specific battery packs from Traxxas. You can look elsewhere and buy other batteries if you wish. So our first option here is a 3000 milliamp hour nickel metal hydride. Our next one is a 4200 nickel metal hydride, and our third option is a 5800 2S LiPo. Your best option is going to be the one on the right hand side, and your cheapest option is going to be the one on the left hand side. So now you have choices as to what you want to do. Our first option, the 3000 milliamp hour battery pack, this is going to get you a decent amount of runtime to have fun as the cheapest or least expensive option. If you're looking for a little bit more runtime, you can go with the 4200 milliamp hour battery pack. This is essentially the amount of gas that you have in the tank. The higher this number is, the longer you can run for. Or the third option is a 5800 milliamp hour 7.4 volt 2-cell lithium polymer. This is by far the best battery. Now, don't let yourself get confused by this option only being a 7.4 volt versus the nickel metal hydride battery pack being an 8.4 volt. For now, just consider this as the amount of runtime that you get from this number. When it comes to the voltage, I can promise you this 2-cell is going to deliver a ton of power even though it has a lower voltage. And all the specifics are essentially talked about on this channel as to why, but I don't want to get into that in this particular video. So on the same side of things, you have options for the charger. Now we're not going to go through each one of these charger options, but you have your entry-level charger on the left-hand side. It can only do nickel metal hydride battery pack, so that is very important. It's not going to be a fast charger. It's going to be relatively slow, but it'll get you started. Then you get into chargers that have more advanced types of features where you can charge not only the nickel metal hydride battery option, but the lithium polymer battery option. And like I said before, you don't need to go and just purchase a specific battery charger that is on the Traxxas website. You can go to another website and purchase a charger as well right here, such as this one. This is a great charger for $70. It'll do both nickel metal hydride batteries as well as lithium polymer batteries and more. And better yet, it has 2 channels, so you can charge 2 batteries independently at the same time. The only difference is you will have to change connectors, and this is a very common thing in the hobby where you have to change your connector to match either the speed control or to change the one that comes on the battery pack that you just buy. There is no set standard where one model or all models use the exact same connector. This is impossible, and the reason why we have to change connectors all the time. So there you go, you have a bunch of different options. If you're looking at getting something like this, which is $70, and you go with the most expensive battery at $70, you're looking at about $140 plus the car price of $200, bringing you up to a grand total of about $340 US. So you can see how this can get expensive quite quickly, especially if you're looking to get some of the more premium type of options here coming with the vehicle. If you went with the less expensive options here, you'd probably be closer to the $300 American mark. And lastly, let's go through a 100 mile per hour build with some very intense components selected for this build. This is the third example that we have here out of the 3. This is an Arrma Limitless. It is a 1/7 scale road car that is really meant primarily for all-out speed, for those speed runs, and that's exactly what we're going to be using it for. Now, one of the keywords here is that it is a roller. For $400 US, all you get is essentially everything that you see here in this image. The things that you don't get with this particular build is your battery, charger, electronic speed control, the motor, receiver, servo, and transmitter. It does come with the pinion gear, but that pinion gear might not be exactly what you need for your particular build, and it's up to you to figure all of this out. Now, what I typically like to do is place all of the items here into like a budget or build item planning tool that I created. all of the items here in yellow are things that I'm thinking about that I'll probably need to purchase. So obviously the car, we have the car. You've seen the car in previous videos if you've watched them already. That's sitting at $400. Now, you guys have selected that we're going to run 8S in this particular model. So the 8S packs here would cost us about $140, going with a 40C 5000 milliamp hour 4S battery. Now, for those of you that are experienced, you might see the C rating here being 40C and be a little bit concerned because of this nature of the build. I am truly going after a battery that has an actual true C rating of 40C. So this could change if the battery pack does not perform to this level and the 100C marketed value actually performs at a 40C. This is essentially what I'm actually looking at. So don't be too concerned about this. The speed control that we're going to use in this build is going to be the Castle XL X2. This sells for $250 and it's one of the best speed controls that we can get for up to 8S. And it's one of the very few speed controls that's going to be able to handle the motor that we're going to throw at this build. Now, keep in mind that all the components for the power system here is overkill for the goal that we're trying to achieve, but it does leave us a ton of room in case we want to improve things for the future. The motor that we're going to use, again, overkill, it's a Castle 1721 2400 kV motor. What's going to be interesting about this build is that the motor itself is going to have to be so far geared down to make it actually possible to only hit 100 miles per hour, because the motor actually wants to do a significant more amount of speed than what our goal is actually targeted for. So this here comes in at $240. With those being added here, I do anticipate needing to buy a pinion gear and spur gear. I'm trying to decide on which one to go with. We'll have to go through the calculations again and see exactly what we need to do for those gears. I'm expecting them to come in at about $50 for the total of them. I don't have them specifically chosen yet. I already have, and this is very common for those of you getting into more advanced types of radio control cars, you're gonna not need your radio because you already have one. You're not gonna need to buy another one. You may have to go and buy another receiver to go into the new vehicle. I think I actually have one of these. I'd have to check, but if I don't, it's gonna be about $65. The steering servo that I'm planning to use is going to be a D645MW. This is a digital high voltage servo. I think it's going to be good. I'm not looking for anything that's too fast in terms of servo response. That makes the grand total for this build here at $1,200 US. I'm not expecting to need to purchase anything further from what is included in this plan. Well guys, this brings us essentially to the end of the video. As always, like the video if you do. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can follow all of the ARRMA Limitless build videos. And as always, thanks a lot for watching.